Yeah. So my name is Olga Khazan, and I'm a staff writer at The Atlantic. And I am the author of the new book, Me But Better, which is about personality change.
Amazing. Well, we have been diving into your book. I'm about halfway through now. I love it, so I can wholeheartedly recommend it to our listeners. But for people who haven't started reading it, can you give us a simple definition of what personality actually means?
Yeah. So personality is sort of the habits and behaviors that come to you automatically. And personality kind of determines how you interact with the world, and how you pursue your goals and the kinds of things you think about, and tend to do. So it really has a huge impact on your day to day functioning and happiness.
Hmm. That is the clearest way you could have defined personality. That's awesome. And so, what is Me But Better about? Like, why did you write this book?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I kind of was stuck in a rut, I guess, for lack of a better word. I found that my life was pretty good. Like if I just described it to you all, you'd be like, "Oh, this she kind of had a nice life. Like I had a relationship, I had a place to live, I had a good job." I actually like had this nervous breakdown that where I like realized I needed to change my personality in Miami in the middle of winter. So it was like totally bright and sunny, like not a cloud in the sky. But I sort of found that my reactions to small problems were very, very outsized and kind of disproportionate to what was happening. And they were kind of keeping me from enjoying my life or from just like appreciating what I had. I didn't really like live in the moment. I didn't really, yeah, I didn't really get any joy out of life. Like the second something would happen, I was like on to the next thing that I was freaking out about. And I wanted to change all that. And I also felt really isolated. I felt like I didn't have a lot of friends, and I didn't really get out much. I kind of was just
Mhm.
off on my own. Part of it was COVID, but part of it was just me, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to shake up my life a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the
And
clouds
change.
are on the inside, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Miami on the outside, DC on the inside.
Yeah.
100%. That's a
In
shirt.
your that's a shirt. In your introduction, when you were describing the meltdown that you're referring to, I related to it so deeply because I remember having kind of the same realization moment where anytime something didn't go my way, or a lot of the times it was plans came up that I really wanted to go to, I committed to it, and then almost like something better came along. And I was like, oh, that's so typical. That's just my luck. That's always an Emma thing. Like something better always comes along, or I always have to miss out on this thing. And I started really tracking my behavior and my interaction with like those events in my life. And I'm like, I'm really fucking sick and tired of interacting that way with things that pop up in my life. I'm tired of responding like it's poor me and I have the worst luck in the world. And I didn't really realize that this could be like a personality trait and something that we can fix. I know that I wanted to, but I really didn't find it as something that I was like, I could fix until I put more effort into it. And maybe that's what you can relate to with your meltdown.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of just realized that I had it. So the personality trait is neuroticism, not to be confused with eroticism. But it
Different
is
episode.
basically anxiety and depression. It's sort of like having those kind of negative thought spirals a lot when small things happen. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what I was doing. Like I would go on vacation and it would rain, and I would be like, oh, just my luck. Like it always rains wherever I am, you know?
Mhm.
Or I would text someone to hang out and they wouldn't text back, fast enough or something. And I would be like, oh, that's just me. Like, nobody likes me. So I kind of wanted to break out of that and kind of like, having the presence of mind to see that like I actually do have things going for me and my life is pretty good. I wanted to like actually enjoy it for once.
Mhm.
I feel like there's also a moment when you start to recognize that that's how you're responding to life. I feel like that can bring some shame with it as well. Like, ugh, like, why do I do that? And so it's like you're kind of shitting on yourself for shitting on your life. And then it's just, you talk about like a double arrow at one point in your book. And it's like, yeah, I notice I do that to myself a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So this was like Actually, so the part of the book where I work the most on depression and anxiety is I do it through meditation. And the meditation was sort of helpful, but like the most helpful part of that was in the meditation class, we learned a lot about Buddhism. And so there's this, and a lot of the concepts in Buddhism, even the ones like this was like a very Buddhism 101 kind of class, but like that's just what I needed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the kind of mind blowing concepts for me was this double arrow concept, which is like when something bad happens, don't then like blame yourself for your feelings about it or for it happening at all. So, let's say you plan to get a certain amount of work done that day, and it's like everything went wrong. Your kid had a doctor's appointment, you had a doctor's appointment, whatever, traffic, like computer wouldn't work, something, you didn't get as much work done as you wanted at all. I think for me, a very natural reaction to that before I started this is, oh my gosh, like I always screw up. Like I can't ever do anything right. I never get as much work done as I wanted to. And that is the second arrow, right? Because it's like you already are behind on your work. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there going like, I'm bad. I never can do anything. So a lot of it is just a lot of that element of it in particular was just shifting kind of the way you talk to yourself and the way you think about things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I kind of have a feeling my double arrow feeling, and I don't know if they're different with people, but for me, I shit on myself for being so self-centered to think that I could control the fact that so many things just went wrong. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to that feeling, but I've come to that realization recently of like, yeah, I can't, like a typical me, this of course would happen to me. I would mess it up or I would get in the way. And I'm like, oh my God, wait, this feels really self-centered to think that I could do all that. And it almost, then I feel worse because I'm like, I'm neurotic and I'm self-centered.
That's like a triple arrow. Yeah. Yeah, but we all do versions of that, right? Like it's like at some point you found that to be a protective thing or like a way to like recover faster in a certain situation, and like so now you're doing it like way too much, and it's not serving you anymore.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. I think Cass and I have talked a lot about beating people to the punch. And maybe that's like a way in which I've tried to beat people to the punch of like making it about myself because I'm the one in the way. So that's a very interesting point.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've brought up neuroticism. What are some other personality traits that are out there?
Yeah, so there are generally considered to be 5. The acronym to remember them with is OCEAN. So there's openness to experiences, which is sort of like imaginativeness and creativity. There's conscientiousness, which is sort of like being on time and being really organized, and being kind of ambitious. There's extroversion, which we all pretty much know. It's like being really outgoing and cheerful and actually kind of like full of activity. Like you just kind of want to get out and do things. There's agreeableness, which is kind of warmth and empathy and trust in other people. And then neuroticism, which is weird because it's a bad thing and the rest of them are like good things.
I know.
But the flip side of neuroticism, like the one that you want to be, is called emotional stability. But I guess there already was an E in ocean, so they made it the N for neuroticism.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
They're like, we found a kick-ass acronym. We're not going to give this up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Give this up.
So are we able to change all of these personality traits? Are some of them more malleable than others?
Yeah, so the research that's been done suggests that most of them are fairly malleable, in particular, conscientiousness and extroversion. Neuroticism is also malleable, but is challenging, just like anyone who's been in therapy for years and years and years, and your therapist keeps saying the same stuff to you, and you're like, okay, see you next week, because you like have trouble applying it. Like
Guilty.
it is like sort of working and you sort of are healthier than you were before, but you're not like completely cured of your neuroticism. So that one is like a little bit trickier. Agreeableness, we don't really know because people don't really pick that one as one that they want to change. I did, like in my project, like I was like, I want to become more agreeable, but like apparently that's really rare, and like not many people in the personality change research are like, I want to be more agreeable. So that one like we think is harder to change because like people just don't really pick it and don't really work at it. And then openness to experience is a little bit strange because it can change. It can change really radically and very quickly and very like long term, but like the way to do that is by taking like huge doses of psychedelics.
Oh shit.
And so that one is a little different because like the other ones are like, you know, like go to a party, say hi to two people, and then like that one is like take a whole bunch of MDMA, like which
Shift
like
your
not everyone
mind.
is in a position to do.
Yeah.
It's not everyone's first choice.
No.
Is our goal in a balanced personality? What is a balanced personality? Are we striving to have one trait that's stronger than the others, or all of them generally the same?
Yeah, so it's kind of generally thought that you should be like higher on all of the traits. So obviously on neuroticism, you want to be lower on that one. But it's generally thought that like you want to be like extroverted and agreeable and conscientious, like that these are like the good ways to be, or at least like the ones that are correlated with like making money and like living
Mhm.
longer and having lots of friends. I will say though that in my research, I kind of found that once you start getting to the extremes of these traits, that's also not very good. So like people who are too conscientious, like you would think like, oh, I would love to be like super organized and super clean and super on time. But if you're like super rigid about that stuff, it can start to almost be like an obsessive kind of thing, and like you can be
Mhm.
kind of almost like a perfectionist about it. So I would kind of honestly like stop at maybe like 85 or 90% of the way there rather than like
Mhm.
pushing yourself to be like the most conscientious person who's ever lived.
Mhm.
I'm like very conscientious, but I still didn't score 100% on that one. I got like 93 or something.
Mhm.
And I honestly like whenever I get in my one of my like we will accomplish the to-do list today like moods, I kind of make my husband and my whole family miserable. So I it's like it's kind of a little bit of a balancing act. You have to have some
Mhm.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Where do we get our numbers, our percentages?
Yeah, so the percentages all come from or for like where I what I am referring to when I
Mhm.
talk about them is this test called personalityassessor.com, which was created by the researcher who I follow for the book. Like not follow, but like most of the research in the book is like by him.
Mhm.
His name is Nathan Hudson, and he's a psychologist at Southern Methodist University. And so he sort of took like these scientific personality tests that researchers have long been giving to their like study participants, and he puts them online, and he's like, people of the internet, like take my quizzes. I am the new
Love
BuzzFeed.
it.
No, I mean it's like, he uses them for his studies, and he also just like puts them online and people can just take them.
Mhm.
And so where you score, like let's say you're like you get a 90% on conscientiousness, that means you're more conscientious than 90% of the people who have taken his tests. And I believe there's a like around 1 million now that have taken them.
Mhm.
But I would have to double check that. Sorry, it's in the book, but I like am not getting the number in my head right now.
A million sounds good.
But there's like many people who have taken them, so it like kind of ranks you compared to like everyone else who's taken them.